Alright, so welcome back to lockdown. Last time we talked about priming this guy and getting him ready for painting, which is today. So we're just going to go over some basics of what you're going to need to get started and getting our first couple of coats on. Now this isn't the only way to do it. Bugger off. This is more of a beginner's guide, so we're not going to get into anything too complicated. But with that said, I guess we can get started. Alright, so as well as all the obvious stuff you're going to need, like paints and paintbrushes, there's a few other bits and bobs that are always good to have. You're going to want a bit of paper to soak up your excess water. I really like to have a watercolor pad because they're super absorbent. We're also going to need a paint pot or a cup or just something to hold a bit of water in. I've got my wee ramekin. And then finally, a wet palette. Now, as far as wet palettes go, you can be super bougie and buy one online. There's a couple of different brands that make them. They vary in quality and can range from about $10 to like 30, 40, or you can be like a regular human person and just smash one together with shit that's lying around the house. Alright, so you're going to need some greaseproof baking paper, an old Tupperware container, and a bit of bog roll. Using the lid of that container, we're just going to roll up some TP, get a couple of thick layers and pop it in the bottom. Then we're just going to toss a bit of water in there, not too much that it's swimming, but just so that we've got some nice wet toilet paper. You can also not be an idiot and use clear water, that way you won't ruin all your paints and make them blue. Then we're just going to grab a bit of that greaseproof paper and kind of cut it to fit, squish in all the corners so it's nice and solid. We got a pretty sweet wet palette. Job done. It's also a good idea to hang on to that toilet paper because we can use that to mop up any excess water in our wet palette, as well as for dry brushing and a few other bits and bobs later on. It might also be worth grabbing a wee paint handle like this one, just to stop your hand cramping and so you can get into any bit you want to. Although if you're on a bit of a budget or you're feeling a bit dero, pretty much anything will do. And then the last thing to do is clean out your water pot. Just make sure there's no little bits of sticky crap that'll get into your paint and f up your paint job, because that'll be a bloody nightmare. I'm just going to get some cold water from the tap. Now you are going to want to do this fairly regularly because you don't want to contaminate the paint in your wet palette with coloured water in your water pot. This is especially important if you're switching from regular paints to metallic paints, because those little flakes will get in your water pot and then get in your other paints and just really fucking ruin your day. And then the final thing before we actually do anything else, and feel free to absolutely ignore this, is to have a little think about what the internal logic of the paint scheme of your army is going to be. So here I've just got a little infiltrator fellow into primary scout guy. He's a sergeant, which is why he has a white helmet and a white little sensor thing on top of his backpack. He's also a squad leader, so he's got the check on his knee pad, the white trim on his shoulder pad, and the checks on the back of his power pack as well. He's also got a little badge of office here, which all the squad leaders will have, colours of which come from the chapter marking. Now, being an infiltrator Phobos fellow, I've given him a little diamond on the other knee pad. Now, being a troop's choice of the 3rd company, he's got a little arrow and a 3 on that other shoulder pad. Now, if he were a corporal or a veteran, he would have a half-white helmet, and if he were a higher rank, like a captain or a lieutenant, he'd have a white shoulder there as well. Now, while that may seem a little unnecessary, having that kind of internal logic really does help your army feel like a cohesive force when they're all together. If you're doing a chapter that already exists, there's a bunch of resources out there you can find, see what the different chapters and different companies do for their trim, and so on and so on. And I mean, a rabbit hole for days. All right, and that's it. Sorry, that took a bit longer than I thought it was going to, but hopefully there's some stuff in there that'll actually be quite helpful. Next time we will do some actual painting, but until then... For the Emperor! All right, see you soon.